What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Pat Hilton, the acoustic force, here with my brother, Matt Tack. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, brother? It's so good to see you today.
Man, it's always wonderful. I appreciate your support. And man, since we've met, we've made so much progress. And I saw you post another real estate deal, and the first recording that we did, you kind of went through what your goals were in a spreadsheet, and you're dialed in this year, man. And it's awesome to be surrounding myself with players like yourself. And this is kind of what we were touching on before we did the call, is the kinds of relationships that we want to build moving forward are people that are like-minded, that can help us, balance what we need to do in our everyday lives and be more productive and put out our best selves.
Absolutely, man. You always need every day I wake up with that mindset, going through some affirmations in my head, trying to get to my best self. And it starts with putting yourself around the best people possible and creating the best relationships, man. So I completely agree with you. Definitely have enjoyed getting to know you over the past 4 or 5 months. Your tenacity has been a game changer for me as well. And on the real estate front, man, just having that accountability amongst peers, really to put things in place, make sure that you're tracking and working against your goals and objectives that you have for life, and where you want to be. So keeping with the end in mind, creating those visuals. But obviously the most important thing for me is that accountability system. That system that says, hey guys, it's the friends, the partners that are just not going to accept you for where you're at. And what I mean by that is, yeah, man, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. And that's it. It's, hey, what's next, man? What do we got? What are we pushing towards ahead? And not to push too far ahead where you're always thinking and you're never present, because you always need to be present as well, right? I'm always present with my kids. There was one guy that he gave me a very, very good lesson on being present with your kids. He's like, you set up meetings all day, every day. We're setting up this meeting right now, and we're doing all these things. And I push my kids to daycare and, all day. And then I come home and I'm playing on my phone, and I see that right now. I see that in me, that's part of my journey, how I'm getting better, because my wife even calls me out. She's like, hey, you're on your phone. But the one thing he told me is, I'm setting up all these meetings. Why don't I make a meeting between 5 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. every single day, and I'm committed to my kids. I have a meeting. So if anyone texts me, bro, I was in a meeting. I had a 2.5-hour meeting. I'm sorry. I couldn't do anything about it. People are trying to get hold of me. No, I'm in a meeting. I'm in an important meeting. And that's being present with my kids and being present with my wife. So it's building and cultivating those relationships that obviously are most important to me, which is my family. And, but making sure I'm setting parameters around that. And, I set up those meetings every day, 5 to 7:30. I'm trying to push that phone away, man. I'm addicted to that phone. Always, obviously exchanging information, trying to stay alert on everything that I'm doing, obviously trying to be a best performance, right, at any given time. Just so happens to be that, my phone's in my pocket and I'm trying to get hold of it. But I'm really trying to get out of the mindset, and this is part of my progressing journey, is really to get away from the phone, man. Really be dedicated to that 5 to 7:30 of, not even touching my phone, but, bathing my kids, to, watching a movie, playing a game, and just being super engaged, because real estate doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Any other relationship at that point in time doesn't matter but my wife and my kids. So I just really want to focus on that. That's part of this progressing journey, is really me dedicate those hours in a given day to my wife and my kids, and just make sure that I'm structuring my days that way. So I go back to my planner, just making sure I'm structuring so that I keep those allotted hours open. Obviously, when you're traveling, things get out of play, but you just definitely want to make sure that when you come back home, you're home and you're present. But then the friends that you surround yourself with, hey, what's next, man? How we moving the needle forward? How we how am I helping you in the capacity to reach your fullest potential? Because it's all about, what do we want to get? Reaching our fullest potential. I know you've talked a lot about that, Pat, is that, you're the funny guy. You're doing this, you're doing that. But at the end of the day, what I saw on you is like, hey, like you can be that funny guy, but you also can maximize your complete fullest potential by doing other things. And obviously now we're doing a podcast together, right? We're partners in this vertical that I think is as far as my personal branding and kind of moving that needle forward and just talking about these things that I have so much information that I'm absorbing, and I want to document this journey, right? This is the kind of
Right.
journey that I'm having.
And that's
Um,
the cool thing about the phone to me has always been, hey, here's me doing this. And I always knew that I was going to look back at some of those pictures 10 years ago and be like, wow, you really went a long way. And even when I was hitting some of the stages we talked about, Kobe Bryant, we lost Kobe Bryant a few days ago, and I shared the stage with his coach, Tim Grover. And one of the things that guy tells you is, I mean, sometimes you only get one shot to hit this, and we've got one opportunity at this life. And so using the technology that we have to communicate positivity and to build others and to project our message out to the world in a great way, this is a incredible opportunity with the golden age of social media to do that. So this is an incredible blessing, but we don't want to let that kind of control our brain at the same time. So
Absolutely.
that's a great thing that I can bring to the table for people is, oh, well, I've been doing all this audio production and stuff for a long, 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 long time. Why don't we use these tools to chat about what you do need to be out on social media doing? And I can handle that for you. And then you don't have to worry about that aspect of what's going on your phone because someone's managing that for you. Just like you've got someone managing this property, or you've got someone managing this construction phase, or you've got if there's no management in these areas and you don't have trusted relationships in these pieces of your life, your wife has to manage the kids sometimes. Your wife's got to manage this part of your day because you've got to be over here. All of those things, it's got to be A players in those positions. And that's where I brought it back to, in any pro star or any professional leader, coach, or any of these people that I've met, they are surrounded by A players only.
Absolutely, absolutely. I call them giants. And one of the things that I'm actually going through a documentation right now, as far as identifying deficiencies in my life. Right, where can I become better? I mean, we always can come better, right? And I think Grant Cardone said it. If you want to become, if you want $1 million, right? If your goal is to get $1 million, you don't find a millionaire, you find some guy that has $100 million because he had $1 million at one point. You know what I mean? You
Exactly.
don't go find
Exactly.
somebody, otherwise you're going to be in the same position. So it's one of those things where you got to find somebody that's 10x you, and then you can be 1/10 of that, and then you just build your way up this ladder, right? And I'm seeing just areas of deficiencies in my life that I'm like, all right, how can I 10x this area? There's obviously, I've broken down my goals into quadrants. So I mean, it's going to be finances, it's going to be health, it's going to be my business, and then my relationships, right? So I build those things in those quadrants, and then take a look at where are my deficiencies, where can I get better spiritually, right? Where can I get it better in my finances? Where can I get better health? As far as how I'm progressing. I signed up for a sprint triathlon this year that I'm going to be doing in April. I'm super excited about that.
That's awesome, man. That's very
So
cool.
it's one of those things where how am I getting better? And it's one of those things also, progress, not perfection. John Maxwell quote, progress, not perfection. You're never going to be perfect. And it's just making that continual progress every day. So, but what I wanted to focus obviously on today is relationships and what's important to me. And I kind of build on it a little bit earlier, but was really identifying, and I apologize. I got a cold that I've been
It
having.
happens to the best of us.
Uh, but as I really identified, all right, what area that I'm focusing on right now that I can get better, like that can make the most profound impact. And there's so many times where it's just like everything dries back, right? The American dream, money, 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 and then we're talking about legacy wealth, and all that does is like drive. Okay, money. You want to talk about money. You want to talk.
Right.
What is the end result, right? Money is usually the result, not the cause. And so, what is the cause? What am I trying to go after at the end of the day? Do I want so much money where I leave my kids behind and freaking they're shooting up heroin at 20? No, like I don't want that for my kids. You know what I mean? I want to identify what I can do for them now so that they aren't exposed to various things, right? I want to find out where my foundation point is, and then I want to progress from there. Well, I identified everything being home, right? So home was what was most important to me. That's my non-negotiable across the board. And how do I cultivate and empower those relationships at home, which then I can focus on the outside? So one thing that I just identified late last year was I sat down with my wife and I was like, hey, we have a really good relationship, but how can we have a better relationship?
Mm.
Where can we 10x our relationship? And so we have a small group at church, and we went through kind of like some spiritual counseling and just through various things, and kind of they call the pink and the blue, right? How I see my lens is through blue and hers is pink, and how we merge those two things together. And so, but we found a really good influence of friends that really are able to help us, right? What I consider A players in relationship status. And what we worked on was just identify a system, put a system in place that would allow us to 10x our relationship. And
Mm.
so I knew we just had a baby. You know, my wife isn't sleeping that much. She's breastfeeding. So what is the most feasible approach to create that system that we can get on the same page? And so I think I hit on last podcast, but um, the calendar approach. How do we get in sync on our calendars where we're just in constant communication with one another? The other thing is she picked her word of the year as bloom, and I'm like thinking, well, if her word of the year is bloom, how can I empower her to do different things, encourage her on a daily basis? And so we came up with this system, right? Came up with the system. I want to encourage her at least 3 or 4 times a day. Number one, tell her she's beautiful. Number two, just tell her how smart and awesome she is because she's badass. I'm telling you, I got a badass wife. And
Yeah.
the turtleneck queen, right?
The turtleneck
No,
queen.
she's hot in a turtleneck. She's hot. But
Well, and there's a story
anyway,
behind that. She did win a turtleneck contest.
she wanted
She
turtleneck.
won a turtleneck contest. So he's not just pulling this out of thin air, folks. This is actual factual based arguments that she is the turtleneck queen.
She's the turtleneck queen. She's the turtleneck queen, man. So, uh, I mean, my wife and I are like creating, right? I want to create this system. So we get up 2 times a week, Tuesday and Friday. Friday is a proactive planning. Tuesday is a midweek touch point. And then, the other weeks I'm just thinking as far as game planning in my head, how can I encourage her, empower her to grow in her word bloom? Because I know she has like a limitless ceiling. Mine might actually be limited. No, I'm playing, but she literally, I mean, she's unbelievably smart. She's an attorney, a criminal attorney for the attorney general. She's just amazing. And but she has so much to offer. She's kind. She's unbelievable person. And so, how do we create these systems? And I put these systems in my place to know that when I come home, I am there for her. I am present. I'm being the best father I can be, and that's what's most important. And so, like obviously, my struggle right now is like being tied to this like phone and getting a number of these projects done. Pat and I have been meeting to get together for about a week and a half now because I got a couple different projects that I'm working on, trying to get these things over the finish line. I'm also trying to put better systems in place, right, to strategically get through these things. We got about 4 flips coming up, and it's just one of those things where I have to identify new systems, right, even outside my home. But my home is the non-negotiable, the most important thing to me. So right now, what I'm trying to do is just create those systems and those relationships that I'm putting in place that I can build a legacy, what I consider my true legacy, right?
Mm.
Whether I'm whether I have $100 million in the bank account in the next 5 to 10 years, doesn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, what truly matters to me is the legacy that I'm building for my kids. That I am there. That they're not. That they know like their dad um, did everything he could for them. Now, part of that is obviously giving them a financial legacy and working very hard to build wealth, right? Um, but most importantly, it's time. And by putting time in them, I know that I'm going to build that legacy wealth in a way that it's going to have a profound impact. Like that, I'm going to 10x and 100x um, their lives and in the lives that they potentially can try to touch. And
And to
uh,
take that a step further, what you're able to do now is, I run a little studio out of my house here in Dallas, and
uh,
I'm home with my wife and my kids, and I get to do what I love to do. And I'm actually 500 days sober today. I mean, I played at bars with a guitar for years and years and years and years and years, and I
love
got out of that environment. I love those people. They helped me advance to a point where I can do this now. But, there's always an advancement. And I got
it.
around new relationships. I got around the Grant Cardones and the Gary V's and performed at conferences with these kinds of people. And I think that the person that showed up at those conferences 2 years ago became a different person that's showing up today. And so, again, back to the relationship thing, you're at a point where now you can bring me on to help you with social media, and that provides freedom for my kids and enhances my relationship with my wife. So not only are you succeeding for you, but you're also helping me live my best self by giving me the ability to bring my talents to the table and help you bring more impact and more message to the world. It's a circle of success.
Yeah,
It's awesome, dude. So I
yeah, it's cool,
appreciate it.
man.
And that's part of the reason why I love these chats, is because they're powerful. Like,
Yeah,
because you're
man.
seeing the success as we're documenting it.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's being present in the journey, right? Make the most of the middle, as Kobe would say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's he's that dude. What an amazing guy. Man, I like obviously dedicate this podcast to him. I grew up playing basketball, love basketball.
Right.
Uh, love Kobe so much. I bought those moon shoes back in the 8th grade. Uh, played in those moon shoes,
Yes.
the ugliest Adidas shoes. Had to have them because
They weren't pretty, but they
so
were Kobe.
uncomfortable, and it still had to wear them. But like, dude, the dude is what an incredible guy of like work and ultimate success, right? At a very young age, and then how he was going to use that at the later stage of his life to impact generations, right? To give back. Which he
Right.
did anyway. He did as he
Of course
progressed
he
through his
did.
career as well. But at the same time, I mean, he was looking to nothing but give back. And
And was an
that
incredible role model for his girls, which is exactly what we're talking about. What kind of relationship do we have at home? Because if home life is good and we're fulfilled at home, we can put out such a massive impact to the planet, because we are our most fulfilled, authentic self. And that's the cool thing about this too, is, we're keeping it real. I mean, there's still struggles. We're going to run into struggles. I mean, you were telling me you were dealing with 4 flips and this and that and the other thing. That's all going to show up. But our opportunity to grow today and to continue to succeed is there. And we're trying to maximize it.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah, man. It's all about maximizing. It is, man. It's a great word. Maximizing your fullest potential and just seeing it, right? But you
Right.
do, man. There's giants, going back to the giants, right? Cultivating relationships. So as I identify these things, I'm just looking for strategically looking for people to the giants in my life that really can like add the most value, get the greatest return, right? You got to think in terms of like return. Is this person giving me a good, and that's somewhat cynical, right? To think about, and to an extent, because you want to think with the giver's mentality as well,
Well, and
because
you are, but at the same time, I mean, you're running a business and the business affects, like we talked about, your home life. And so you're kind of bringing it into the home. I mean, you're broadcasting, we're recording this and you're in your house. I mean, you're bringing me into your home. We're becoming part of each other's families. And I think that it's important if you're going to bring people in that you know who you're bringing in.
yeah,
And like
yeah,
we talked
totally
about,
agree.
I was messaging with Tim Grover, the Kobe personal trainer, and he's like, man, only A players, only A players. And that's what
Only,
you're saying. Giants, A players. Surround yourself with greatness, or surround yourself with 10Xers, or that's we're studying people who are producing at the highest levels in society, and it's competitive and it's part of life. So yeah, I mean, returns, if who am I going to bring onto my team to go out and win the title? The goal is to be the best.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You don't, it is to be the best version of yourself. I think
Right.
a guy in John Montero, man, an awesome guy in Dallas, Texas, syndicator, multifamily developer, great guy. But he shared something the other day that that yeah, this life is you don't win in business. You just that you don't win in business. Like, this isn't a game that you win or lose. Um, it's it's all about the analogy of rising tides lifts all boats, right? um it's for everyone to succeed, right? He I think he should, it was quote something about like, um there's a lot of people out there that are just afraid of, or that don't want other people to succeed. um and like, it's just like, just a negative connotation that somebody has, like, because they aren't fulfilling the best version of themselves, right? But
Right.
in my eyes, I want to see everyone succeed. Like, rising tides lifts all boats, right? You put more positivity out in the world, it's just going to make a lot more people happy. One thing that I do and encounter, like, every day, um, every day I choose to, like, just smile at people. Like, I'll just say hi. People think I'm weird all the time, but if I choose to smile, there's an energy that comes out of a smile. There's also an energy that comes out of a touch. One thing that it's a systems that I put in place that, quite honestly, that just being completely transparent, it's been really really tough for me. But we go to a church in it's Tampa Heights. It's in Tampa, and it's a little bit closer to downtown, but it's right by the Salvation Army, right? So there's like a homeless shelter, bunch of homeless guys coming through our door. And me, I'm not afraid to, like, I just love talking to anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. I'll just go and talk. But one thing that was impressed upon me, I'm like, I didn't, there's like, number one thing that the houseless or homeless society, whatever you want to call it, um, that loses out on every day is personal touch, man. They're these victims of just they're not touch just brings so much energy to people. You don't know how much energy is inside your body, and I'm probably killing my kids because I'm always kissing them. I love them. I just can't stop kissing them. They're just like, I love my wife so much, so I kiss them all the time, so I show that affection of love, man. That probably is passed down from my mom, because I remember, always kissing us. It's always kiss on the cheeks. And my wife thinks it's super weird, but we still kiss on the lips. It's really, really weird.
It is what it
Super weird.
is.
Oh, we're a family that kisses on the lips, dude. I kiss my friend's mom on the lips. She always kisses me on the lips. I don't know what it is.
Some moms are like that. They just
Super
go in for it.
affectionate,
It's like their thing.
dude. Super affectionate. Shout out to Wheezy if you watch this, brother, man. Uh, Mom's always kissing me on the lips. She's like my second mom, though. So, anyways, but it's one of these things where it's just a failure to thrive, these homeless people. And the one thing that is, I truly believe it was divine. But it's I dude I like I shake their hands, I hug them, like these guys that come in our church, or I see them on the street, dude. I'm like, what up, dude? To give him a half hug, give him a full hug. My buddy Matt, an amazing guy, so smart. dude, he's homeless. I just give him a hug every time I see him. And I, dude, that the amount of energy that is released out of me into him, and like vice versa, that you just capture in a hug or in a handshake or whatever it might be, or in a touch, um, might be an energy that like puts him 2 days ahead. You know what I mean? That dude, just something, an energy that somebody was willing to touch me. But so many people, especially in the houseless society, that dude, get away from me. I'll give you $1, but don't touch me. One of those things where it's just like a failure to thrive. But like as you build and cultivate these relationships, um, it just makes you it just makes you just more. It's made me more secure in myself, quite honestly. I thought it was disgusting at first. I'm a germaphobe. I don't like take 2-3 showers a day. Like it's just not my thing, right? Um, but I just realized how important it is. You know what I mean? Be important for society in general, but to create that positivity in the world. And when you do that, dude, it like it clears out so much, man. It just like when you smile at people and just make somebody laugh at the cash register when you're checking out or something like.
Right.
When you put that out, man, I promise you get it tenfold. And so it's I look at it as greatest return, right? I'm not going to go through life with a humdrum attitude and just like, I'm not, no, man, I don't like you, you don't like me, and that's it. No, dude, I'm going to make my best attempt to like you. You know what I mean? I know I'm not going to be best friends with everyone, but I'm going to put out as much positive energy as possible where I can accept that return of like, man, like I'm getting a good energy and a good return from somebody else. This universe is full of like good people. I truly believe it. Good people are out there. Everyone's like, there's so many bad people. No, there's a ton of good people out there.
Right. It's almost
Um,
like the negativity gets published more. And I think it's also like we talked about when you are building relationships with positive people that are A players, that are going places, that are driven, that want to do great things, that have a plan, and you're along for the ride with them and they're along for the ride with you. Like that kind of stuff fades away, and the abundance mentality of I want to see this person succeed. I want Matt's channel to be the hugest channel in the world because
yeah,
I win too, man. It doesn't hurt me.
absolutely.
It doesn't hurt Pat's channel. I want this thing to be great. I want to impact people. We want to help people talk about real estate. We're going to have guests on here eventually. And I
Yeah,
mean, we want to help people win because we want to win. And the more we help everyone else and the more we surround ourselves with winners and with abundance mentality people, dude, the better our life is, the better our lives are.
absolutely, man. I mean that you're so spot on. But it is all about creating that circle, right? That
It
circle that's
is.
not
It
going to
is.
let you settle. Not going to let no, man, that ain't for you know, dude. You set expectations for yourself, but quite honestly, God has expectations that are infinitely higher.
Yep.
And there's He has put in us, man, in every one of us, so much potential. There's so much potential, untapped potential, that we need to go after, and we need to surround ourselves with the people that are going to accelerate that. And It's just one of those things, man, where like that's part of my progressive journey. Definitely over the past year and a half, as I collectively just kind of pull all these systems together and put my inner circle. I was watching the Kevin Hart documentary. Um, don't F this up. And dude, he has the Plastic Cup Boys, right? And the Plastic Cup Boys are like his boys, but they are not going to accept anything less than greatness across the board. And when he's out of line, dude, they check him right back in.
Mm.
And that's what, dude. That's where I'm at, man. Quite honestly, Pat, I consider you one of my boys, man. Checking me in, man, when I need realignment, like saying, hey, like, no, I am not going to accept that. Like, you will get to the next level, and it's just one of those things where I'm creating my Plastic Cup Boys, right? Where like I am not going to accept anything less than like the absolute best from myself. But it starts with my non-negotiable, like keeping the end in mind, right? where is my non-negotiable? My non-negotiable is like my family, right where I'm at, to make that as synchronized and put the systems in place. Obviously, I explained to you some of the systems that we put in place. And then the next thing is identifying the giants, right? Putting that inner circle around me to that no, I am not going to accept anything than your best. You know what I mean? And I want to see it out of you. And so putting that inner circle, both, in my quadrants of life, right? In business, finance, health, across the board, um, to really make sure that I'm setting the bar, not honestly too low, but exceptionally high, but meeting
Right.
the standards. And it comes with the people around you, though. You have to accelerate that and put the proper systems in place. It's all about systems.
Absolutely. And I think it all goes back to, we both have wives and we got girls at home and we both have newborn daughters. It's interesting how aligned our home life is. And we've got women in our corner too. I think it's important that, if you've got a wife, whether they're working a job or they're a business owner or whatever they do, it's that alignment starts with that relationship. And because that's what you're taking directly into your client base, into your relationships at work, into what you're delivering to the marketplace or whatever. So if that's on point, it filters down to the kids and it filters down to your clients. It filters down to your 4 flips that you got being successful. It flips down to your multifamily investments being successful, to that trust is built here and it filters out around you, and the investors and the people that are relying on you are going to be saying, hey, this is a guy we can count on because he handles business in all the different areas of his life.
Yeah.
Like I see, I don't know, there's people who focus just on one thing. They're great in that one area, but everything else is falling apart. That
Yeah.
doesn't work. Like we talk about, it's got to be a revolving 360, almost like a tire. Like
Yeah.
sometimes the tire catches on a little bit of snow, but then it kind of goes again. Or,
Yeah.
there's got to be a rhythm to what you're doing. And like you said, it starts at home. I think that's a great observation. If home life is on point and it's synchronized and aligned, it makes it so much easier to go out and project this positivity and this abundance and make an impact and put your message out to the world and help people win. And in turn, that all comes back to you.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's you just you gotta do it too. It's a daily exercise too. You're not always gonna have the mindset. Like some people say, like we're even talking about this, right? And it gets us amped up because we're talking about it. But at the end of the day, this life is a grind, man. It's a grind every day. It's a grind. Like you gotta hustle. You gotta work, and you gotta do these things. But it's all about perspective, right? Waking up with that mindset every day that no, I'm gonna take this thing down, or I'm gonna push out as much positivity in this world today. Like if it's identifying 4 people that you can like just smile at, what's that system look like every day, that allows you to say, hey, like I am going to impact the world today. And you don't need to impact the world like, you know, on the topic of Kobe Bryant today. Like you don't like there are Kobe Bryant was an exceptional talent, right? And
He's a pretty big example to live up to.
he's definitely a pretty big example. And I'm sure, like I didn't know Kobe Bryant, but I'm pretty sure he was an amazing guy. Like I don't know, he's an amazing athlete, looked like an amazing
Seems
guy.
like an amazing dad, an amazing provider, an amazing supporter of his wife. And so, yeah, I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
But it's yeah. So I mean, it's yeah, like, and I'm sure he, at the end of the day, 41 years old, like, dude, he's probably looking at the best version of himself, saying like, "What life well lived," right? But Ed Milet, an amazing dude. If you aren't following him and you've never heard his name, dude, Ed Milet, hands down, one of the most amazing dudes on planet Earth, right? But he puts it in perspective like no other. He said he has this hallucination, he calls it, but this hallucination, and I think like this now, like it's crazy, but he he wants when he dies, And the worst thing that potentially could happen to him is he gets to heaven. He's standing in front of God, and God shows him himself, but it's a better version of himself. And he's like, this is what I actually made you to be there on earth. Like, this is it.
Right.
And he has to meet a lesser version of, like, he's a lesser version of himself. He's like, that's hell. He's like, heaven is when I get up to heaven and I meet God. And he said, hey, check this guy out. And he meets him, and they're the exact same people. He maximized every ounce, and he got to meet the best version of himself in heaven, right? He
Mm.
knows that he gave it all. He put everything on the line, right? And he's now meeting the best version of himself. That's heaven. And just thinking of it in that perspective with the end in mind, right? Of like getting to the end, right? Getting to the end of your life. Everyone's gonna die, right? And if you haven't
Facts.
listened, I had Ed Milet, David Sinclair, awesome guy, and that's on Health, Mind, Health, Body, and Spirit. You definitely want to check out that podcast because it's an amazing as far as just taking care of your body and then being able to live potentially well into your 90s, and just be alert, not have to worry about a bunch of things. But they go through a bunch of that. But to follow David Sinclair, amazing guy. So being that, though, with taking that mindset of having the end in mind and really saying, hey, look, man, am I going to meet the best version of myself? And that's, dude, that's my fear. Like, why live my life a lesser version of me, right? And I don't want to live a life a lesser version of me. I want to get the max potential. So that's it, dude. Ed Milet, great perspective on that. And I
Yeah,
don't
he's
think
fire. He's
anybody,
straight fire. And
great.
and it goes right back to who's around you, who is influencing you. We're talking about high level producers here.
Yeah.
And what are you taking in? What the things that you're downloading into your brain and the things that you're doing to develop yourself personally, the
Absolutely.
physical and the mind and the body and the business, that all of these things are connected. So if you've
All
surrounded yourself with people that are helping you improve those things, you're going to be putting out a high level. If you're
absolutely.
not surrounding yourself with people that are pushing you to a high level, it's going to make it a whole lot harder for you to get to the levels that you're capable of, and like we talked about, that God has called you to step into.
Yeah. Yeah, man. You it I mean, I couldn't have put it better. I mean, literally you need to maximize. You need to maximize. Going back to that's probably the word of this podcast, maximize. Um, the it's so important in life. I'm like extremely grateful, at 34 years old, trying to get to this point, really thinking this way, that like, how do I maximize, right? um, and how do I maximize number one of my relationships? You always got to identify your non-negotiables first. That's so important, is to identify your non-negotiables, because then you lose track, right? And then I'll tell you what, man, I was listening to something. It was a relationship expert, and I might have brought this up before, but you can have, this is my non-negotiable, going back to like my wife, my, as far as like my homestead of where it's most important. But you can have multiple different relationships with different women, and you can go through this life of just seeking out love, and trying to find the right relationship for you. But or you can have multiple different relationships with your wife over the course of a 10-year marriage, right? And that's basically just saying, hey, I'm identifying my wife. I met her when she was 18 years old. She's not the same when she's 22. She's not the same when she's 26. She's not the same when she's
Right.
29.
She's
She's certainly
constantly
still not
evolving.
the same as when she's 34. And I got to meet her where she's at. I got to be able to empower her and see, like, what is your focus? You know what I mean? She's a mom of 3 girls now. We're looking to adopt in the next few years. You know, we have all these future ambitions of what is the best version of ourselves, and how do I meet her there? And how does she meet with me where I'm at? I'm a different person than I was when I was 26. You know what I mean? So I had a different mindset. You know, we weren't even married. We were like a number of other things, but we were cultivating this relationship along the way, um, good, bad, or indifferent. But we ultimately led us to this point, right? That I had this almost euphoria, like epiphany moment where, dude, I gotta understand my non-negotiables, you know, and I gotta invest in my family first. And so that's where, you know, I come from, is that we my non-negotiables, and identifying that and having different relationships with my wife, because I'm gonna have a different relationship with my wife in the next probably 2 years, but surely in the next 4 years. We're just going to be different people. And how do I meet her there along the way? Instead of this, I'm going to let her go away for 6 months and we're not going to talk all that much. We're maybe going to sleep in the same bed. And then I look over one day and she's a complete stranger. You know, where did this woman come from? You know, oh, we need to get a divorce. It's like, how do I invest in her now so that doesn't happen? You know, and it's just one of those things where I'm constantly trying to find where she's at, and sometimes to her annoyance, right? Like, where are you trying to go, Kelly? You know, like, where's your vertical? I love the vertical. Where's your vertical? You
Yeah,
know,
vertical,
where's
that's
your,
your thing. That's
dude, I love
totally
it.
your thing.
And dude, but it's so important, right? It's
It
such an
is.
important word to
Like,
maximize on your
how high
vertical.
can I go? How
It's
can I
there.
break through the freaking ceiling? Get the
Yes, and
ceiling
that's
out of
what
my way. Right.
and
I get
so
it.
is he, you know, more important than everyone. So like, it's such an important word because we have so many different lanes we could choose. But identifying the non-negotiables, creating the verticals within those lanes, and then ultimately, you know, maximizing on them, and creating the systems that allow you to get to that next level. So, you know, uh, it's just so important, man. And relationship building is so important. That's a fundamental, um, goal for me this year, is create more business relationships. But you know, again, the non-negotiables in mind, but creating a more active business relationships, and then creating those giants in my life that are going to allow that are allowing me gonna raise my level of success, in the different areas that I've set out for myself this year. But you know, that's just my thinking, man. But really creating those systems, putting those systems in place. Obviously, I got to say John Maxwell. I probably said his name like 4 times without even knowing, but
He's
John
good,
Maxwell,
man. He's
an
good.
amazing guy that just really gets you in the cerebral mindset of uh, really putting those systems in place, really kind of documenting and discovering the process, of how you're going to get to the next level. So really, you know, putting those things in place of creating the systems so that you can achieve the best version of yourself. And that's, I feed my mind on a daily basis, probably with 2 or 3 podcasts when, you know, I'm in various circles, or I'm on my own or whatever it might be. But I'm filling with my mind with an extensive amount of knowledge right now. And dude, I have some even giants through podcasts, right? Never met these guys, but they're giants in my life. Dude, those are who I'm giving so much time to because I know I'm reaping the benefits.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and like we talked about, I'm a computer nerd, so I use the word downloading, but like that, when those words come through one ear and
mhm,
you know, like circling around, it certain stuff sticks. You can't,
yeah,
everything's not going to stick, but what am I downloading? What's coming through the processor every day? You
absolutely,
know,
man.
I mean, my brain, I'm like a hyper active, but also there's a part of this hyperactive thing that's hyper focus. And there's
Absolutely.
two sides to the like being hyper. And I think that the hyper focus is an advantage, and no
Yeah.
one really talks about that. And so these little nuggets, I'm able to really zero in on, you know, 4 or 5 awesome things, because I do the same thing. I listen to like the audiobooks on the podcast, and I listen to Ed, and I listen to Andy Frisella, and I've started listening to a lot more John Maxwell because of you. And these guys are all phenomenal. Grant Cardone, of course. And I find these main things, and then I break those things down. So it's like music too. Like I'll find a little 15-second turnaround that like some advanced turnaround. Rush is really good at these like advanced instrumental turnarounds. And I have to listen to it like 30 times to figure out exactly how that moves. And I'm like, I get it now. Almost like a football coach would break down a playbook for somebody. That's what we're trying to do, is figure out exactly what things we need to implement into our game every day to get better every day. And sometimes you listen to the same thing 3 or 4 times, and the thing that affected you at first was the thing you needed to work on that day. And then 2 weeks down the line, you maybe go back and listen to the same chapter, and there's 3 new things.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, I got really good at this one thing, but dude, now there's like these 3 other things, mind blown. Got to go work on those now.
Yeah, man, that's the importance of that is identifying second half adjustments. Some of the best leaders in the world, right? You have your game plan. You have your game plan off the bat. This is what I really need to focus on. I need to focus on this. Not realizing that once you get really good at that, oh man, I gotta make a little tweak, a little adjustment to that. Like I need to make a second half adjustment. Some of the best leaders in the world, right? Or some of the best coaches in the world are unbelievable at making second half adjustments.
Yeah, totally agree. That's a great way to put it too.
I can only think of like, I'm a massive University of Michigan fan. Jim Harbaugh, awful at second half adjustments, like probably the worst. But then you take the truly great coaches, right? You have the Urban Meyers, man. You have the Dabo Sweeneys. I'm just thinking football terms. I don't even watch.
Right. No, I get it.
But you just think in terms of guys that are winners.
The Alabama coach, what's his name? Nick Saban?
Nick Saban, man. And these guys, like, they can get beat up in the first half sometimes. They can have a bad first half. But then you also, when they go into halftime and they come out, they're like, something happened, right? John Beeline, University of Michigan basketball coach, very good at doing that, and Tom Izzo, another guy, basketball. Mike Krzyzewski, thinking of some of the greatest minds.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think that's a great way to put it, is you're able to focus on, hey, what do we do right? But what isn't working? Let's cut what's not working and focus on really dialing in on these 3 new concepts, and let's make those work, because they have to work, because dude, we got to go out and produce.
Yeah. So, and we'll end on this, man. We'll wrap up on this one, but it's just creating those relationships. Going back, I just heard one time this guy was going to interview Greg Popovich, right? And Greg Popovich, we were just staying on the topic of basketball coaches. Probably one of the greatest X's and O's guys, one of the greatest leaders, probably of the past 20 years in NBA basketball. If any of you don't know him, he's the coach of the San Antonio Spurs.
I was going to say the Spurs, but I didn't want to be wrong. But yeah, I knew that. So
this guy was going to do it was on culture, and he was studying culture and trying to figure out like what makes a good team great, you know what I mean? Or overall, he was going into business and various things, and Greg Popovich just kind of hit home with me, because Greg Popovich created a culture within the San Antonio Spurs that wasn't the foundation, and nothing about it was off of basketball. Very little coming out of this talk does Greg Popovich focus purely on the X and the O's. Greg Popovich wants to know how you're doing with your wife. He'll send you a bottle of wine, and this guy said he actually came in, and he was interviewing them the day after they had lost a pretty big game. I don't know if it was in the finals or wherever it was, but and they were still continuing playing, and he he was able to see the interaction between the player and Greg Popovich. And the night before, Greg Popovich had sent over a bottle of wine. He knew that they were going out to a restaurant and had sent a bottle of wine to the restaurant, an aged bottle of wine. And so, anyways, the following night, this player missed this shot. Whether it was Tony Parker, I don't know who it was, but he missed essentially the game winning shot. They come back in the next day. It was a pretty big game, and instead of Greg Popovich coming up to him and said, "Hey, man, um, I know you had a hard game last night and you missed the shot." Instead, he didn't even say anything about the shot. He didn't even mention anything about the game. He's like, "Hey, man, did you guys get that bottle of wine that I sent you, at the restaurant?" He's like, "How'd you enjoy that, man? Did you guys have a good conversation? How'd your conversation go?"
Interesting.
He's investing into his team, and he wants to know how they're doing personally, professionally, in their mindset between the years, because this life, everything's 90% between the years, 98%, 99% between the years. And so Greg Popovich investing into these young guys, and by doing that, he sees performance, right? He's able to he's able to rebound from that shot. He's not going to hold on to that. They do eventually get into the X and the O's, but he's investing. How's your kids doing? I want to know more about you. And by creating this cohesiveness and this culture within the team, there's a response where they're just cohesive. They know each other on the court, and they're able to blend as a unit of one, right? And going back now, I think in terms of my house, right? How I can blend with a unit of one, right? How I'm called to be one with my wife, and how I can blend and create that culture code within my house, right? And then in my business now, how can I create that circle of influence among the giants in my life, among the other people, where I don't even have to look, but I know he's on the right wing and he's going to hit that jumper. You know what I mean? Or I'm going to catch him underneath the basket because I already know where he's at. You know what I mean? Being such in synchronization with these guys, um, that you don't even have to look. And John Wooden, one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, probably better than Greg Popovich, knew that. And his preparedness, and in the level of how he prepared his players, they just knew coming into the game that they knew where the players were going to be at. They knew that they knew at any given time that that what was going on in the game, they controlled the game.
Right.
And
So
how
you can
you control.
almost feel it. It's at that point, it's almost like a feel.
Exactly, man. And it's how do I get that in my family, my non-negotiables. But like going back, creating those systems in place, identifying your non-negotiables in life, and then ultimately creating that circle of influence, right? Easier said than done, but being very focused, right? Putting the energy out in the world, and then being bold with it. I think that's, for my year, the word vulnerability is my word, and what I want to bring to the forefront. But being bold, just getting out there, being like, hey, man, I don't know everything. And what I'm trying to get is just a little bit of more information out of you. But how do I give? Ed Milet puts that well, dude. We have the ability, no matter what stage of life. I have something to give to Bill Gates, and it might be a friendly smile, might be I don't know what it is, but dude, I would love to meet Bill Gates someday. Awesome guy, right? I would love, Bill and Melinda Gates, philanthropists across the board. They're amazing with their time, money, and resources. John Maxwell, a guy that I just love, you know what I mean? Love listening to. Ed Milet. How can I give to them? They're in some capacity.
Right.
I can give to them, right? You can give to anybody. It doesn't matter if they're on, 10 light years ahead of you. You have the ability to give to somebody, and then you have also the ability to receive. And that's kind of where my headspace is taken up right now. How much can I give? Who can I give to? And then who can I actually, return from? And there's plenty of people out there that I can get a return on. And you just want to maximize on those people, right? Where you
Absolutely.
but then maximize what you can actually
Because
take.
on a low day for you, it's going to maybe be a high day for that person. You come right back up to your level.
Right.
It's a balance of awesomeness.
As iron sharpens iron,
I love
so
it,
one
dude.
man sharpens another.
I love it. So, yep. You've got to get back on the grind. But, dude,
I
another
do,
great
brother.
chat. Thank you so much. I
Sounds
appreciate it.
good.
And we hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to subscribe to all the channels as they will be active. And appreciate your time,
Absolutely.
Matt.
At MW Tack on Instagram. Follow me. Would love to see you to see different things I got going on right now, man. I got some exciting times ahead. We're taking down some commercial multifamily, obviously. We've been pretty active on that front. Then you can check me out on Facebook too. Pretty active on there at MW Tack and Matthew Tack's my full name. But yeah, man, it's trying to stay aggressive in the real estate world. That's my ambition. That's a passion of mine. If you guys want to link up on any deals, send me some deals, man. I'd love to JV on anything. But man, really find your non-negotiables in life, man, and find the giants in your life that make you better. As iron sharpens iron. Love you, Pat. Stay above water, everybody. Stay above water.
Let's
Let's
get
go.
it.
Let's do this. Let's
Appreciate you, man. Have a great
peace.
rest of the day.
You too, man.